whether we should continue with our SIPs or not.
Split your salary को कहाँ कहाँ रखना है, मेरे को सब समझ आ गया है. I know how to make money, right? Buyer का affordability बढ़ाना है ताकि merchant को फायदा हो जाए.
Credit cards are safe or they are not.
क्रेडिट कार्ड से ATM में जाके पैसा विड्रॉ कर रहे हैं लोग. 40% इंटरेस्ट लगता है. 40% इंटरेस्ट. पेरेंट्स आर अ लॉट मोर फाइनेंशियल डिसिप्लिन देन वी आर, एंड बहुत सारे लोगों को समझ नहीं आता है.
What are the domains where we shouldn't use credit cards at all?
People started betting more, gambling
right.
more, right, and even losing more.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं हूं मानसी और स्वागत है आपका बॉस वाला पर. आज हमारे साथ हैं मिस्टर सुधीर वायन, जिन्होंने IIT खड़गपुर से पढ़ाई करी और अब अपनी पर्सनल फाइनेंस की जर्नी को बहुत ही बेहतरीन तरीके से जी रहे हैं और उसी एक्सपीरियंस को आज शेयर करने वो हमारे बीच आए हैं. आज हम उनसे जानने वाले हैं कि कैसे उन्होंने अपनी फाइनेंस जर्नी को एक पुश दिया, आज वो इस मुकाम तक पहुंचे हैं. एक बहुत बेहतरीन कंपनी के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, credit.pay के साथ. पास्ट में बहुत सारी बेहतरीन कंपनीज के साथ ऑलरेडी काम कर चुके हैं. एक अच्छी एक्सपर्टीज़ के साथ, एक अच्छी नॉलेज के साथ आज वो हमारे साथ हैं. तो आपके और मेरे सभी सवालों के जवाब आज देंगे मिस्टर सुधीर वायन, जिनसे हम जानेंगे कि कैसे उन्होंने अपनी पर्सनल फाइनेंस की जर्नी को यहाँ तक लेकर आए हैं. वो कैसे हमें और ज़्यादा मोटिवेट कर सकते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को लेकर, सेविंग्स को लेकर. सारी जानकारी आज की इस वीडियो में मिलेगी. So let's welcome him. Basically, I want to know about your journey so that how a person can start from a scratch and to be at this position where you are now.
Yeah, that will take a while. I have a pretty diversified work experience, so to speak, right? So I've graduated from IIT Kharagpur, passed out more than 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. I have work experience across, I would say, 7 industries in total in the past 16 years. So I started my career in the world of capital markets. So I used to trade futures and options in New York and London stock exchanges. So I've done that for the first couple of years of my career. And interestingly, I've entered capital markets without any prior knowledge of finance.
Okay.
It's a very refreshing experience for me. And then my second stint was as a entrepreneur.
Okay.
Right? So I had my own edtech venture based out of Bangalore. This was back in 2012 and 13 times. Right. So I've done that for a couple of years. I've done my master's post that from MDA Gurgaon. And most of my, I would say, corporate work experience, primarily in the field of, let's say, finance and technology, started from 2014 onwards. One of my ex-bosses at Flipkart, so he was starting up his own venture, and he invited me to be part of the founding team. Right? So that's when we joined hands together. It's been a little over 2 years, and a lot of ex-Flipkart folks, we got together and we started credit.pay.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now I handle everything, growth, marketing, and finance at credit.pay.
Correct. So when was the time when you got into the personal finance or the finance? Like, it was your early days or after a certain while you started?
Actually, the thing is, like, I would say that I'm a little fortunate because having exposure to, let's say, the world of capital markets and to different asset classes and how to invest and how to save and all that at such an early age.
Correct.
Sort of gave me that advantage. Like, many people start learning about personal finance much later, not in their early 20s. I got an opportunity to sort of understand the world of personal finance at a very deep level, that too in my early 20s.
Okay.
So that, and obviously fast forward almost a couple of decades, right? So it became a sort of a passion for me. Like, at the end of the day, everything under the world, like, name it, personal finance, savings, like, asset classes, capital markets.
Correct.
These are, I would say, my topics of interest at the moment because of all the learnings that I've accumulated in the past 20 years.
Right. So would you suggest the same thing to the people, that whether they should start in a very early stage of their life, like into a personal finance thing?
Totally. I think if you look at our Indian education system, right, and how we are brought up, the awareness of personal finance is something that people gather at a very later point in time.
Right.
And I think there is also a bit of societal dynamics shift at play. If you look at it, maybe if you rewind a few decades, right, so the average age at which people used to get married used to be a lot lesser.
Yeah.
Like, you can take the entire, like,
Correct.
A lot of communities across India. Even for men, not just for women, right? People used to get married in their early 20s itself. Women, obviously, less than 20 and all that, right? So financial discipline was sort of forced down their throats at a very early age.
Right.
And that is why we see that the older generations are a lot more conservative. The older generations, I would say, their understanding of personal finance is definitely better than maybe, so to speak, the current generation as well. Although
Okay.
current generation seems to understand and speak about a lot of asset classes, kya karna hai and everything, right? But at the end of the day, the core crux of financial discipline, right? So it's like, all of us can clearly say that our parents are a lot more financial disciplined
Yeah.
than we are.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly sure that's actually true for them as well, that
So
their
they're inclined towards this thing. There are people following traditional financial saving methods and everything is way better.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. Like, see, that's what I'm saying, right? When you spend a very, very long time in a field,
Yeah.
any field for that matter, may it be marketing, may it be finance, any particular field, you actually eventually realize that a lot of what we're being fed are simply temporary fads. And there are a bunch of timeless principles which
right.
have always sort of applied, which were always true for many situations. And it is more so in the case of personal finance, like, financial discipline. How do you take financial decisions? Like, how do you, split your salary ko kahan rakhna hai and everything, right? So people will be a lot better off listening to their fathers
Yeah.
than their friends. That's for sure.
करेक्ट सो मतलब ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स में हम अगर देखें तो व्हाट डू यू थिंक आर बेटर फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट पर्पस अदर देन एफडीज ऑफ कोर्स
That's a very, very extremely broad question. That is, I'll maybe just give sort of,
Yeah,
my
the
point
names
of
on the
view
list
here,
or something
right?
like
So if you look at it, right, so I actually love real estate.
ओके
I love real estate more so than any other asset class.
करेक्ट
Even more than gold, right? And there is a very important reason which people tend to overlook. Real estate is a highly illiquid asset class.
Okay.
Liquidity is
Yeah.
essentially the ease with which you can sell,
Right,
right? Real estate
right.
is very illiquid. And if you maybe, let's say, for example, take Bangalore का real estate last 20 साल में कितना grow किया, like, Delhi का real estate last 20 साल में कितना grow किया, on average any tier 2 tier 3 city, right? And maybe then you can get our stock market experts, they will say that Sensex से ज़्यादा grow किया, Nifty से ज़्यादा grow किया,
Right.
so stock market is a
Right.
better vehicle to invest, like, gold से ज़्यादा grow किया, there is this popular sort of a narrative saying that the best asset class is capital markets, सबको stocks में पैसा डालना चाहिए and all that, right? But if you look at it, I have not come across a single person who has held on to his money in stock markets for more than 10 years till now.
ओके
I have not come across a single person. And let's say, for example, if I have to tell my performance in stock markets, right, I will always give a biased opinion.
हाँ
I will always remember the money I made.
या
I will comfortably forget the losses I've done.
ऑफ कोर्स हाँ
If you actually show the true P&L for most stock market investors, they will reject it. They are not even fully aware of it. They look at what makes them feel comfortable. And stock markets are liquid because that implies that you can buy and sell any time.
राइट
And that is the very big reason why it makes stock markets an inferior asset class.
Okay.
Because it is so easy to sell.
करेक्ट
It is harder to hold.
करेक्ट
And only when you hold you can make money.
Yeah.
So that is why there, if let's say, for example, yes, Sensex did appreciate, maybe it's growing at, like, in healthy double digit percentage if you take last 30 years, last 40 years. But I just rightly pointed out, I'm yet to come across a person who's bought an Infosys stock in 1995
Right.
and still holding as of today.
Yeah.
I only read about them in newspapers.
Totally
At least in
agree.
real
Yeah,
life, I have not come across anybody.
Right,
But I know everybody in my family and everybody in my extended family
Yeah,
who have been holding on to their real estate for decades.
करेक्ट
So real estate is a true wealth creator that way. Even more suited, let's say, for our sort of Indian context.
राइट
So it doesn't matter whatever the quanta is, you can actually start small. And in the existing scheme of things, if you look at it, there are so many easier options to own a home. Like, maybe 10-20 years ago, it was not easy to own a home or
Right.
even a piece of land. It is no longer the case. Easier financing options, builders are also giving flexible payment options to customers. A bunch of things have made real estate even more lucrative than what it was before.
करेक्ट
So real estate for me whatever, like if you look at it again, because of all the turmoil that we've seen in Indian markets in the past few months, because of all the global macros that is happening, Trump tariff and all, now we don't know what's going to happen with the situation in terms of, let's say, geopolitical tensions, wars and everything, right? So in such uncertain times, a very good advice would be to stay away from stock markets.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So whenever there is a lot of frenzy, if too many people are talking about something, then you should stay away from it.
Correct.
Right? That's a very good advice. So, like for example, I personally, I wouldn't say that I have predicted this or I have forecasted this, but I sold my entire stock holding in September.
Okay, the entire portfolio.
Entire portfolio I sold in September. Of course, there are other reasons also. I need some money. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
But for some reason, call it a gut instinct or call it a fact that I've been watching markets for so many years.
Right.
But I got an instinct that maybe a correction is due. Right?
Okay.
Maybe I don't want to. I just. So I actually took entire money in September itself. And the market has corrected madly since then. I call myself like one of those lucky guys, right? But not everyone may get this much luck with respect to timing and everything.
Right.
But yeah, good advice. If someone asks me what is a good stock to invest right now, I will say nothing.
Okay.
Don't invest in stocks at the moment with the existing uncertainty that is there in the market.
Right.
It is better to sit out and watch.
So one of the questions that I had was. When the war time was going on, especially the Russia-Ukraine war, so people have this question that whether we should continue with our SIPs or not, whether we should stop our SIPs or whether we should invest more into SIPs. So similar kind of situations right now might happen. I'm touch wood, it shouldn't, but in case of that, so what should we do for that now? Whether we should still continue for the SIP thing, like people who are investing.
So again, right? So if you look at SIPs, so all the more important than the SIP is where the money is going.
Okay.
Is that money going into a 100% equity fund, or is that money going into a mutual fund which is like 50%, let's say bonds, debentures and fixed income instruments and 50% equity, or is it going into a mutual fund which is 90% debt and only 10% equity, right? So that's more important. So I would highly encourage to have a balanced portfolio.
Correct.
More so at the moment. There are a lot of mutual fund options out there which give a healthy mix of debt versus equity.
Any percentage for that? Like what percentage into debt, what percentage?
I prefer 50-50 to be frank.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are no thumb rules there. Again, it boils down to your risk appetite.
Okay.
Right? 50-50 is a reasonable hedge, right? Because you're protecting against a market downfall also, and you're also earning a fixed interest on your whatever capital that you're putting in.
Right.
So if you have a well diversified portfolio, not just when I say diversified, it doesn't mean that I have 10 different stocks. No, that is not diversified enough. Then you're still fully invested into stock markets as a whole, right? You should maybe, let's say, if your mutual fund is into a lot of bonds also and a lot of stocks also, if the fund is well diversified, then people should not be stopping SIPs. And SIPs, the beauty of SIPs itself is to give you that dollar cost averaging.
Right.
So dollar cost averaging will protect you from any potential downsides.
Can you explain this term dollar cost averaging means?
Sure. So dollar cost averaging, what it essentially means is, let's say for example that you are buying an asset class.
Okay.
Maybe let's say it is gold.
Okay.
For hypothetical instances, we just take gold. Okay, some unit of gold, whatever that is, like some unit of gold, it is like 10 rupees. I'm calling it a unit, some milligram of gold, some 10 rupees, right? And every month you choose to put in 100 rupees.
Okay.
So that is your gold SIP.
Right.
Let's say that I want to invest 100 rupees every month.
Right.
So first 1 month I got 10 units of gold because 1 unit was 10 rupees.
Correct.
Now by second month, gold increased by 10%. Now I only got 9 units.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
By third month, gold ka price, let's say it went down from 11 to let's say 8 rupees.
Okay.
Right? I will end up actually getting third month 12 units. If you look at it, right? So when the prices are low, you will end up buying more of that.
Correct.
And where prices are high, you'll end up buying less of that.
Yeah.
Which is the right investment strategy.
Correct.
And this fixed some SIPs, they will make it so easy for you to do that. At the end of the day, what is any trader or any investor's dream? Buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
When something is low, buy more of it.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
something is high, sell more of it.
Correct.
At the end of the day, and in a way, SIP gives you a better opportunity to do that. When something is lower, you will buy more of it. When something is higher, you will buy less of it.
Correct.
So your average cost is actually protected. Instead
Okay.
of putting lump sums,
Got it,
instead of
yeah.
putting 1 lakh rupee in a 1 year, you are better off putting 10,000 every month.
Yeah.
So that will essentially decrease the volatility of your portfolio. When I say volatility, right, like last 2-3 साल में Indian investors का risk appetite काफ़ी बढ़ गया है, and that is because of a false confidence that they've developed.
Okay.
Like if you look at 2019 onwards, Indian markets have performed very, very well, right? And a large majority of retail investors made money. They made money because the entire economy was bullish, because the global outlook on India was bullish. Everybody made money, and everybody started thinking of themselves as a stock market expert.
Yeah.
मेरे को सब समझ आ गया है. I know how to make money, right? Now show me somebody who has made money in the last 6 months. Where are all the stock market experts gone?
Correct.
In the last 6 months, everybody has lost money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, if you look at it, this false confidence has given higher risk appetite to people. People started betting more, gambling more, right? And even losing more. Which is a very, very harmful behavior, particularly India ke liye, right? When we have such a large middle class and even a much larger lower middle class, right?
Correct.
One big financial loss event can derail a family.
Correct.
Can literally derail a family for years. Maybe they can never come back to the initial state that they were in.
Right.
Right? So I sincerely urge everyone hence to not go after whatever is trending, whatever is being shown in those stock market news channels, or whatever is being shown in WhatsApp groups. Your money will be double in a few months. Don't fall for these tricks. Do not fall for these tricks.
Correct.
I know legendary investors. I personally know legendary investors. And if you can make 30% interest every year compounded, then you will be in that legendary category.
Okay.
Legendary investors can double their money in 3 years.
Okay.
That's what legends can do. If someone is telling that you can double your money in 1 year or 6 months, then he's fooling you. Right? Doubling the money in 3 years is considered legendary.
Right.
That's my benchmark. So 26% CAGR. This is like, these are thumb rules. Like if you can make a 26% return, then in 3 years you will double your money.
Okay.
That is considered. That's what I'm saying. And then you will be equal to Warren Buffett. If you can do that for decades.
Got it.
Most people are not Warren Buffetts. So it is better to go after much safer instruments.
Correct. So as you said about the financial loss, so another topic that comes into the mind of people is basically credit cards. Financial losses. Majority of people don't buy. In the morning only, I was talking about to my father, and he told me I want to stay away from credit cards. So how come you can just quote this statement? Credit cards are safe or they are not?
See, it's a very interesting question now that you ask. There are 3 forms of credit.
Okay.
I'm referring to consumer credit.
Okay.
There are 3 forms of, and that too I'm only referring to unsecured credit.
Okay.
Unsecured credit का मतलब है where you don't have to deposit any security or collateral.
Okay.
Home loan is a secure credit because your home is the collateral.
Yeah.
Like,
Correct.
Personal loan is unsecured credit.
Yeah.
Credit card is unsecured credit.
Right.
Personal loan is something that you will use in case of an emergency, in case you have a liquidity issue, you want some urgent fund, like कुछ family health issue हो गया है. There are a bunch of reasons where personal loans actually make sense. They actually make sense despite the very high interest rates that they charge. But as much as possible, people should avoid taking personal loans. That is for sure.
Okay.
Reason being, particularly Indian customer, right? The Indian consumer, the Indian middle class consumer is not fully well versed with lending. India में, if you look at it, the business class is well versed with lending.
Okay.
उनको they understand, like how to rotate the money, how to get loan from this banda for this much interest, वो सब उनको पता है, and they really understand money at the in their fingertips.
Yeah.
But if you look at the rest of India, the rest of India except the business class, historically they have been very bad at taking loans. People take loans and they become indebted forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
And like, if you go to even worse off scenarios, like even as of today, peasants in villages, they're indebted forever to their owners. बस एक उधार की वजह से. Right? That happens. And that exactly the trap a lot of people fall into because of personal loans also.
Okay.
Personal loan, and again, right, say however transparent RBI is, and RBI is trying its best to basically tell all the banks and NBFCs and all the fintechs also to be very transparent to the customer, so that they are not
delusion में ना रहें किसी भी.
Right. At the end of the day, if you look at it, personal loan ka interest rate can go as high as 30-35%.
That's way too.
Which means that you take 100 rupee loan, you're expected to pay 3 rupees every month.
Yeah.
Every month. In 1 year, your amount is like 130-140 rupees. Like, yeah, of course, personal interest rates, they start from 10-11%. I'm not saying that Indians cannot get such interest rates.
Why so?
Primarily because of credit score, your income and everything. Like, for example, like I'm sure like some of us can get personal loans also at a very, very good interest rates, like 10-11% में मिल जाएगा. But most people don't take personal loans, and that particular, right? So personal loans, people end up taking them when they really, really need it. And good number of cases, people get desperate also. Their credit score may be a bit low. So they end up taking personal loans at 15%, 20%, 30%. And once they do that mistake, it is very tough to come out of that debt. वो loan को clear करने के लिए, they end up taking another loan.
Another loan, correct.
Right? And that cycle continues. So, and that's it. So now, essentially, a family which is on a healthy financial path can simply get derailed completely.
Correct.
Because of one big personal loan.
Correct.
So these are dangerous instruments, and again people used to look at it that way. Now coming to credit cards, credit card को तो loan की तरह treat ही नहीं करना चाहिए. Credit card is not a loan. And बहुत सारे लोगों को समझ नहीं आता है कि credit card से ATM में जाके पैसा विड्रॉ कर रहे लोग.
Correct.
40% इंटरेस्ट लगता है. 40% इंटरेस्ट, ATM में जाके फिर से विड्रॉ करते हैं लोग. क्रेडिट कार्ड से लेके ये रेंट ऐप वाला जाएंगे, रेंट भर लेंगे, क्रेडिट कार्ड तो बैंक अकाउंट ट्रांसफर कर लेंगे. क्रेडिट कार्ड इज बीइंग यूज्ड एज अ क्विक पर्सनल मिल जाएगा.
तो मतलब बेसिकली लोगों को यूज करना नहीं आता है.
That is the most dangerous way to use a credit card.
Yeah.
See, credit card was invented for one simple reason. Buyer का affordability बढ़ाना है.
Right.
ताकि मर्चेंट को फायदा हो जाए. एंड बायर का अफोर्डेबिलिटी कैसे बढ़ाएंगे, उसको एक क्रेडिट लाइन दे देंगे. लाइक बट बायर को तो क्रेडिट नहीं चाहिए, ही इज नॉट विलिंग टू पे इंटरेस्ट.
राइट.
सो क्रेडिट कार्ड का सबसे बेहतर बिजनेस मॉडल इज दैट you are getting a credit card with 45 days interest free period.
Correct.
And that 45 days का interest the merchant is paying for you.
Right. Correct.
So that is it's a beautiful model.
Right.
Merchant को better धंधा हो रहा है, customer को affordability better हो रहा है, he can afford things easier which he cannot otherwise. Right? So credit card is an instrument that is only there to boost खरीदारी and affordability.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
It is not supposed to be like in some rare cases you may be in a situation where you're not able to pay the bill in full. थोड़ा बैलेंस कैरी ओवर हो गया, क्रेडिट कार्ड के ऊपर भी इंटरेस्ट भरना पड़ा, कभी कभी हो सकता है. इफ दैट हैपेंस, जल्दी get back on track.
Okay.
Like don't pay bills on your credit card. मतलब don't pay interest on your credit card bill.
Right.
Okay. Luckily 60% of Indian credit card holders they always pay their bill in full.
Correct.
But we do have millions of people who use credit card like a loan.
Yeah.
4-5 credit card रखेंगे, multiple loans चलाएंगे.
Correct.
लेकिन ऐसे 4-5 credit card रखना is not a bad thing.
Right.
मेरे पास भी 5 credit card है. Because I want to maximize the savings.
Right.
I don't
Okay.
want to maximize. मेरे को उधार नहीं चाहिए इतने ज़्यादा.
Correct, correct,
See,
correct.
like my top 5 spending categories. Like मैं सबसे ज़्यादा spend करता हूँ ऑनलाइन शॉपिंग में.
Right.
ठीक है, मेरे ऑनलाइन शॉपिंग के लिए मेरे पास एक क्रेडिट कार्ड है.
Correct.
उसके बाद नंबर 2 मैं यूपीआई में स्पेंड करता हूँ.
Correct.
तो यूपीआई के लिए मेरे पास एक क्रेडिट कार्ड है. उसके बाद मैं
ट्रैवल में करते हैं.
स्विगी जोमेटो में स्पेंड
Swiggy,
करता
Zomato,
हूँ.
that's
उसके लिए मैंने क्रेडिट कार्ड ले रखा है. तो आई हैव टेकन मल्टीपल क्रेडिट कार्ड्स टू मैक्सिमाइज माई रिवॉर्ड्स एंड सेविंग्स.
Right.
If that is the reason, then yes, go for it.
हाँ.
But if we like rewards के लिए savings के लिए credit card लेना चाहिए, and for that flexibility of convenience and payments, not as a loan instrument. So if people want to get a credit card so that I will get some extra money, I can buy things which I cannot afford. Then it's a very very bad use of a credit card. Then आपको credit card नहीं लेना चाहिए.
तो how can people learn all these things? Like what is the perfect way to use a credit card?
See, if you look at it right, so even I also learned how to use a credit card the right way after a few years.
Okay.
Initially, I also used to think like my dad. Like like every classic Indian dad,
Right.
it says that credit cards are very dangerous.
Correct. Correct.
क्रेडिट कार्ड्स नहीं यूज करना चाहिए, मत लो क्रेडिट कार्ड, उसको मतलब फेंको इधर उधर, राइट. सो आई एक्चुअली यूज टू बिलोंग टू दैट थॉट प्रोसेस, एंड आई यूज टू spend 100% of my spending out of my savings account and debit card,
Okay.
right. And then I saw the advantages of using a credit card. Let's say for example with respect to the acceptance, like it is accepted at many places, and number one, and the rewards are great, like
Right.
the rewards are really really great. I'm able to save anywhere between 2 to 5% of my expenses because I hold a credit card. Right, and it gives me unmatchable convenience, like in all my I'm able to track my expenses better because
Okay.
of credit card. My credit card statement gives me a full picture of कहाँ कितने categories में पैसा जा रहा है,
Correct.
खाने में कितना पैसा जा रहा है, travel में कितना पैसा जा रहा है, मूवी
Right.
देखने के लिए कितना पैसा जा
Right,
रहा है.
right.
तो I get a very nice view.
हाँ.
So credit card, if used in the right way, is very good for your financial health. And credit card is the best way to build your credit score also.
Right.
So in the future you can actually access much better premium credit cards, home loans, जो भी हो, right? So that way a good credit card used in a good way is very beneficial for everyone.
Can you name any 3 good credit cards? Like for a middle class person who is
See, like-
earning between I would say 30,000 to 50,000 maybe.
Ideally speaking, someone who wants to get their first credit
First
card.
credit card,
like,
yeah, correct,
first credit card को तो मैं ये कहूँगा कि सबको first credit card. See, there is another concept, another product which is out there which most people are not aware of,
Right.
but it's a very powerful product. इसको FD credit card बोलते हैं.
Okay.
FD credit card का मतलब है that you are essentially first you will do a fixed deposit with a bank, and वो fixed deposit को वो security की तरह लेते हैं,
Right.
and then they will give you a credit card
Okay.
based on how much your FD you have put.
Right. Right. Right.
And most Indian middle class, उनको normal credit card out of reach है, completely out of reach है. आज की दिन में, and particularly last 1 year में, banks have become even more conservative.
Okay.
So credit card issuances and approval rates have gone down a lot. तो अभी credit card approve होना is like जंग जीतने का, it's not that easy at all.
We have heard this thing, like if an employee is working in an organization and that organization provides a savings accounts का option कि you open a savings account in this particular bank, be it any bank, so that bank will offer a credit card to the employee. So the employee can take that credit card as a first card, or he or she should get into other options for the credit card wala part.
See, but what you're explaining, while it is quite prevalent, most Indians don't even have that luxury if you look at it, right? So out of 140 crore people that we have in our country,
Right.
the number of existing credit card holders is 5 crore.
Okay.
That's it. And it is not expanding at a rate that we would like to. The number of credit cards is growing.
Right. Right.
The
right.
same 5 crore people are holding like 5-6 credit cards each.
Correct.
So like overall 10 crore credit card hai, but credit card holders are not increasing.
Okay.
So this class of corporate employees, salaried, all of these things, guys, that's a minority.
Right.
That is actually a minority. That is like we are talking about a classic metro city IT employee or that kind of a phenomenon. Like for them credit card is still accessible.
Right.
But for 95% of Indians, credit card is not an accessible product.
Right.
डायरेक्टली उनको क्रेडिट कार्ड एक्सेसिबल नहीं है एंड दैट इज वाई देर ऑल्सो उनके पास क्रेडिट प्रोफाइल बिल्ड करने का मौका भी मुश्किल से मिलता है.
ऑप्शन ही नहीं आता.
ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. मतलब इट्स लाइक अ चिकन एंड एग प्रॉब्लम.
राइट.
क्रेडिट कार्ड के लिए क्रेडिट स्कोर चाहिए, क्रेडिट स्कोर के लिए क्रेडिट स्कोर बढ़ाने के लिए क्रेडिट कार्ड चाहिए. तो लाइक हाउ डज वन गेट आउट ऑफ दैट इक्वेशन? सो दैट इज वेयर अ प्रोडक्ट लाइक एन एफडी क्रेडिट कार्ड वर्क्स ब्यूटीफुली वेल.
ओके.
Like the beauty of an FD credit card is, see, abhi the times are very uncertain, with markets, as we were discussing, right? So itna thoda uncertain times mein emergency fund hona is very very important.
Correct, indeed, yeah.
And there is no better emergency fund than a fixed deposit.
Right.
Nobody in India will argue with that.
Right.
Like FD is like by default the safest emergency fund they could think of.
Correct.
But इतना FD नहीं करते हैं लोग. Although if you look at it, the existing interest rates are quite good. मतलब small finance banks they give like almost 9% तक interest देते हैं. Right? लेकिन फिर भी लोग FD में पैसा इतना नहीं रखते हैं. One of the major reasons for that is पैसा लॉक हो जाएंगे. Right? I cannot use my money when I need it.
Yeah.
So my money just gets locked up for years. Right? So that is one very big concern. Liquidity मतलब मैं यूज़ नहीं कर पाऊंगा मैं खुद का पैसा. And again जब यूज़ करने के लिए तोड़ूंगा तब पेनल्टी लग जाएगी.
Right.
Like पूरा all the returns, all the interest भी लॉस हो जाएगा. So this is a major reason why people don't do FDs. So that is where an FD credit card is lovely. Like you let's say आप 1 लाख रुपए आपका इमरजेंसी फंड है. 6 महीने का खर्च के लिए आपने 1 लाख रुपए इकट्ठा कर लिया.
करेक्ट.
1 लाख रुपए का आप एफडी कर लो. आपको बैंक वाले तुरंत उसके ऊपर एक क्रेडिट कार्ड दे देंगे जिसका लिमिट होगा 90,000.
ओके. तो बैंक का कोई परसेंटेज नहीं होता है एफडी का कि इतना आपकी एफडी अमाउंट का इतना परसेंटेज वुड बी देयर फॉर द क्रेडिट कार्ड लिमिट?
Usually most banks follow 90%.
Okay.
Like if your FD amount is 1 lakh rupees, then you will get a credit card with a monthly limit of 90,000.
Okay.
Like so, and the beauty is you are earning interest on your FD. Right. And then you will also earn credit card rewards on your spending.
Right.
See, I'll give a very beautiful comparison here. Take 2 people.
Right.
The first person जो पूरा पैसा सैलरी अकाउंट सेविंग्स अकाउंट में रखता है. ठीक है. और उधर से स्पेंड करता है जहाँ पर भी. राइट. एंड सेविंग्स अकाउंट में हार्डली you will make 2-3% interest, maybe lesser than that. Correct. Depending on your average balance कितना होता है. Right. Now take the same use case with a different person जो पैसा FD में रखता है और FD क्रेडिट कार्ड लेता है basis the FD amount. Right. Now he is making that 7% interest on FD.
Yeah.
He will also make this 2-3% returns on spending. Right. By way of credit card rewards.
Right.
You're almost doing 10%, you're saving 10% on your expenses.
Right.
Whereas you're hardly saving anything.
Correct.
So that is a delta.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at it, you have ended up creating an emergency fund भी create हो गया.
Yeah.
Credit card का rewards भी मिल रहा है. Credit score भी बढ़ रहा है. So it actually checks a lot of boxes. And this product FD credit card was not marketed well. Okay. And इसका अवेयरनेस मार्केट में काफ़ी कम है. सो इफ यूज्ड एन एफडी क्रेडिट कार्ड में रिस्क भी नहीं है. क्रेडिट कार्ड में लोग बोल सकते हैं कि भाई यूल गेट तुम लोन में फंस जाओगे, ऑल दैट you'll end up spending more than what you're earning. Right. But FD कार्ड में पॉसिबल ही नहीं है.
Yeah, correct.
If your FD is 10,000, you'll get a 9,000 वाला कार्ड. 9,000 के ऊपर you cannot spend.
Yeah.
If you don't pay back that 9,000, they will take money from your FD.
Yeah.
So it is already sealed. Like that way there is no default risk. Or let's say you एक लोन की वजह से दूसरा लोन लेना पड़ा. You don't have to go down that road.
Usually people have this habit of spending, like you said कि 5 or 6 credit cards they are having. So एक क्रेडिट कार्ड का बिल भरने के लिए दूसरा क्रेडिट कार्ड यूज करना या उस क्रेडिट कार्ड के लिए तीसरा क्रेडिट कार्ड यूज करना.
वो मतलब उससे ज़्यादा रिस्क तो है ही नहीं.
हाँ, तो इससे कैसे बच सकते हैं? मतलब how people can save themselves from this kind of habit?
See, if you are someone
and they want to keep 5 or 6 credit cards, they want that credit card, but they don't want to have that trap again and again, that loop. इसका क्रेडिट कार्ड उसमें, उसका क्रेडिट कार्ड इसमें, ऐसा वाला चीज़ के लिए.
See, simple. There are a few thumb rules that people has to follow. Okay. Now, if you look at, I'll tell you like one classic phenomenon. अभी 3 years ago, I was in a startup.
Okay.
ठीक है. And most startups when they launch their product, क्या करते हैं, सिर्फ एंड्रॉयड के लिए प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं, सिर्फ एंड्रॉयड वाला मोबाइल ऐप लॉन्च करते थे.
राइट.
iOS का बाद में देखा जाएगा. iOS का कितना यूजर्स होंगे इंडिया में, लाइक सिर्फ मेट्रो में कुछ कुछ वो होंगे, तो iOS का ऐप हम बाद में बनाएंगे.
ओके.
If you look at the existing scheme of things, every startup is simultaneously making both the apps.
करेक्ट.
Because अभी iPhone का penetration इतना ज़्यादा हो गया है, गांव में लोग यूज iPhone यूज कर रहे हैं.
करेक्ट. करेक्ट.
21-year-old college students are using iPhones.
करेक्ट.
Call center employees are using iPhones. People who are making 10,000 a month are able to buy iPhones. कैसे? Because people are spending more than what they earn.
Right.
That is the fundamental problem.
Yeah, right. वो EMI के थ्रू, loans के थ्रू कर लेंगे, but yeah, they want that thing.
Correct. See, there is a simple thumb rule. Okay, if your EMIs, okay, actually I'll tell you the reverse calculation.
Okay.
Okay. Typically, if your salary is 1 lakh,
Okay.
पकड़ लेते ठीक है, जो भी 10,000 1 लाख, राइट, एंड आप क्रेडिट कार्ड को अप्लाई करते हैं,
Right.
तो वो क्रेडिट लिमिट जो देते हैं, इट कैन बी एनीवेयर फ्रॉम 2x to 5x ऑफ योर मंथली इनकम.
Okay.
बैंक के ऊपर डिपेंड
Correct,
करता है, आपका मल्टीपल फैक्टर्स कम इन टू प्ले.
Right.
बट अगर मेरा सैलरी 1 लाख है, तो मेरा क्रेडिट कार्ड का लिमिट 2 लाख हो सकता है, 5-6 लाख भी हो सकता है.
Right.
ठीक है.
Right.
एंड मैं जब मेरा क्रेडिट कार्ड से 1 लाख से ज़्यादा खर्च करता हूँ, दैट इज़ व्हेन आई एम एंटरिंग अ ट्रू रिस्क जोन.
Right.
आई एम स्पेंडिंग मोर दैन व्हाट आई एम अर्निंग.
Yeah.
And that is where a very good thumb rule to essentially keep is never ever spend more than 30% of your credit limit.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Because credit limit is usually 3 times of your salary.
Right.
It comes from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should not be spending more than your salary.
Yeah.
That is a thumb rule.
हाँ,
इसीलिए लेकिन लोगों को नहीं चमकता नहीं है.
हाँ.
So that is why people end up saying credit limit से 30% से ज़्यादा ना यूज मत करो, नहीं तो credit score गिर जाएगा. It actually comes from this whole point. You are spending more than what you are earning.
Yeah. 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 Correct. Correct. Correct.
And again, if people have EMIs,
Yeah.
it is extremely important to ensure that your EMIs are also less than 30% of your income.
Okay.
It's very, very important. If your EMIs are more than 50% of your income, then every month you will struggle. Every month you will be waiting for your salary day.
Right.
You know, that's a classic use case of like, you know, going above your means. Going above your means is the problem that Indians have to deal with at the moment. Listen to your father. He knows better.
Correct. Correct.
Like, you know, I have this brilliant advice that my dad used to tell me. Like, if you want to buy something, wait for 3 days.
Wait for 3 days.
3 days. 3 दिन के बाद याद आ जाता है. Implies it's important enough.
Okay.
Maybe you can buy.
Okay.
3 दिन के बाद
अगर भूल गए.
it was never important anyway that much.
Correct.
You don't have to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a good
So this
interesting thing.
impulsive purchases, online shopping, everything at like, you know, thumb, ये सब हो गया ना. So that is why people are buying more than what they need. That is the problem.
Correct. Got it. मतलब usually, yeah, my dad used to say the same thing कि क्रेडिट कार्ड से तो दूर ही रहना है. एंड इनफैक्ट नाउ व्हेन ही इज़ यूजिंग क्रेडिट कार्ड्स, तो अभी उनको ये हो रहा है कि आई वांट टू क्लोज माय क्रेडिट कार्ड बट आई नीड माय क्रेडिट कार्ड ऑल्सो, बिकॉज वो पेट्रोल के लिए ज़्यादा, ऑनलाइन शॉपिंग तो ही डजंट प्रेफर दैट मच, बट हाँ मतलब अगर ग्रॉसरी शॉपिंग है या मॉल शॉपिंग है तो ही ऑलवेज प्रेफर अ क्रेडिट कार्ड. माई डैड एक्चुअली मेरे से ज़्यादा ऑनलाइन पेमेंट्स में बिलीव करते हैं, कैश बहुत ही कम उनको.
Another beautiful advantage of a credit card is there is a concept called as liability.
Yeah.
Liability का मतलब ये है that let's say someone has stolen your debit card.
Right.
And let's say hypothetically that आपका ATM पिन भी
You forgot.
somehow चुरा लिया. Like, you know, or somehow उनको पता लग गया आपका ATM पिन भी.
Right.
Somehow, right? And they take your card and they go withdraw 50,000.
Yeah.
Of course, you can block the card later.
Yeah.
Can you recover that 50,000 rupees? You can't. You can't. It's your money. It's gone.
Yeah.
Entire is your liability. But let's say if credit card gets stolen and someone makes an online spend of 1 lakh rupees, you can deny it.
Okay.
You can deny saying that it's a stolen card and you will not be charged for it.
Okay.
You don't have the liability on you. People underestimate the power of credit card.
Right.
Credit card mein you can simply say that I did not do this. You can dispute the transaction. Someone else stole my credit card credentials.
But in debit card, we cannot do that.
You cannot. पैसा गया तो गया.
We can complain to the bank or certain percentage we can recover from the bank.
How? If the paisa is already gone out of the system, if that guy withdraw cash, you cannot recover. UPI transaction you can't recover. People keep begging.
Yeah.
Sorry, मैंने गलत नंबर पे भेज दिया है, आप मेरे को वापस कर दो.
Correct.
In a few merchant transactions, there is a chargeback construct that exists wherein banks may help you block the money from the merchant and give it back to you. Let's say, you bought something from a merchant and merchant product या service नहीं दिया है even after you paid the money.
Right.
Then you can complain to the bank saying that मैंने पैसा दे दिया है लेकिन मेरे को product service नहीं मिला है.
Right.
Then they can actually temporarily hold the merchant's funds. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But if let's say UPI से पैसा चोरी हो गया और डेबिट कार्ड से चोरी हो गया, that's it, gone. There is no way of getting it back. But we have that
complaint section and everything for UPI transactions as well.
You can dispute it. You cannot reverse the transaction. You cannot reverse it. They will just immediately.
Once the money is gone,
it's gone.
Yeah.
That is where credit card is beautiful.
Right.
It's like extremely beautiful. It actually happened to me. Like some random dollar transaction कुछ तो हुआ था मेरे credit card के ऊपर. I disputed it. I never paid for it.
Okay.
You can always dispute. So credit card that way protects you from fraud. It protects you from fraud very, very well.
Another plus point, correct. Okay. So currently you are associated with this credit card company only, credit.pay.
Yes.
So how come you got interested in this kind of field कि okay अब मेरे को credit card से related या फिर credit.pay के साथ ही I want to work?
See, I'll just maybe take a step back and give a macro picture as to why we believe in this domain, right?
Yeah.
So at the moment, if you look at it, as I was rightly pointing out before, India, हमारा economy जो है, our best bet for growth is consumption. Consumption. See, different economies, they grow in different ways.
Right.
Like China grew because of its manufacturing and exports. Japan grew because of its exports, and again a lot of high-tech exports and a lot of manufacturing, right? Some countries grew maybe because of tourism. US grew because it had 4 to 5 factors working together for them, like technology, consumption, exports, everything. But if you look at हमारा देश का growth story, most of it is driven by consumption.
Right.
If India has to grow well in the next 20 years, then all of us will have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Correct.
We have to spend, of course, irresponsibly we have to spend.
Right.
But that is why, if you look at it, right, most of Indian startups which are growing are also very consumption focused. अभी quick commerce आ गया, e-commerce था, तो everything is like very consumption focused. मतलब we are not there yet कि हम कुछ innovative IP बना दिया, innovative technology बना दिया. We will get there. It took a few decades for China to get there.
Correct.
Like, literally 15 years ago, China also was making extremely cheap products, which were ridiculed across the world.
Correct.
Right now, they're able to make products which have higher quality than the European companies and US companies. Right. So it's an evolution journey.
Is this one of the reasons that we have bypassed Japan in the economy thing? GDP. Like
GDP, to be frank, is not the best indicator to measure the economy.
Okay.
It is like saying that, हमारा खानदान में 50 लोग हैं, and the next house has 3 people.
Yeah.
हमारा घर में ज़्यादा खाना बनता है. Obviously बनेगा. You are 50 people, you'll consume more.
Yeah.
Japan is like, एक Indian state का आधा population भी नहीं है. Right? So no, we are nowhere as advanced as where we would like to think. Yes, India has come a long way. Our growth journey has been very healthy. But we are a very, very, very long way from getting into a developed nation status. So yes, absolute GDP में we are a bit there. But हमको तो GDP per capita देखना चाहिए. That is a better indicator. So India is still way behind. But more so worrying about India is the divide that is happening. It's like, the classic phenomenon of rich getting richer, poor getting poorer.
Correct.
It is actually happening more than it is whatever. I hope, touch wood, that, we will able to, sort of see a very healthy growth of the economy. But at the moment, yes, there are a lot of healthy things, but there is a lot of focus areas also that we have to keep working on.
As you were saying about the consumption pattern, so that creamy layer of the nation, So basically, are they spending more, or the middle class has got into that stage that they have this consumption pattern also?
See, middle class is also spending more,
Right.
but the creamy layer is spending disproportionately more.
Okay.
So they are driving the economy a lot more than the middle class. Yes, middle class has always been super critical for India.
Right. Right.
And middle class is, yeah, COVID has been a very bad phase for the Indian middle class, but I think we are on a good recovery path from there. Middle class का consumption actually थोड़ा slow down हुआ है.
Okay.
Middle class needs to consume a lot more.
Okay.
Like rural में everywhere that you go, right? So the current indicators में थोड़ा slowdown दिख रहा है across the board consumption, like that is something that hopefully will pick up in the next few quarters.
Okay.
Nobody can predict. There are a lot of factors at play. But अभी का current consumption story is mostly driven by the top 10%, 10-15%. They drive different level of consumption.
Okay.
So that is why, right, if you look at it, the entire, all the apps that are being launched or all the digital economy, they only want to target, I think, one of the retail experts, right, so Mr. Kishore Biani, who is the founder of the entire Big Bazaar and the
Right.
Future Group, right? So he has a very interesting take on this. He actually splits India into 4 cohorts.
Okay.
India 1, India 2, India 3 and India 4.
Right.
So India 1 is, according to him, it's a very interesting definition. If you belong to a household which has any house help,
Okay.
then you're part of India 1.
Okay.
Right? India 2 is you're salaried and all that, but if you don't have a house help, then you're India 2. India 3 is essentially almost everyone else, sort of falls under the bucket. And then India 4 is like, the people who live on subsidies and maybe like the below poverty line and all that, right? So disproportionate amount of consumption is driven by India 1.
Okay.
And India 1 is not more than 10-15% of your population.
Okay.
That's it. So everyone is going after the pockets of the top 10% Indians. Everyone, literally.
Correct.
That's where all the money is.
A middle class person who is salaried, we have talked about a salaried person, he can have a credit card or something like that. What if a freelancer who doesn't have a regular income, but he earns, the first 15 days he earns a better income, then the last 5 days he doesn't have that kind of income, whether they should have a credit card or not, whether they should opt for a credit card options or not, or how they can manage their spendings and everything.
See, again, right, so it is very hard for someone who is not salaried to get a credit card.
Okay.
So their options already are diminished.
Right.
Pretty much, because hardly any bank gives a credit card to non-salaried person if you're not a HNI, right?
Correct.
So eventually the only option that remains for them also is an FD credit card.
Okay.
Which we
So
spoke
FD
about
credit card, there is no
For an
certain
FD
criteria
credit,
or something.
you don't need you don't need a credit score.
Okay.
You don't need a salary proof. You don't
Okay.
need any income proof. You don't have to submit any documentation to show your finances, bank statement. कुछ नहीं चाहिए. All you need to do is just do a fixed deposit, which will be taken as a security for you to get a credit card. That's it.
Right.
So this is the most accessible product to everyone in India, which will really help them sort of build their financial future.
Okay.
Not just that, right? So you take, for example, people in their early 20s. People in their early 20s also don't realize the importance of credit score.
Right.
They will only realize it a bit later when they really want a loan. Then they see that, why is the interest rate so high? Why am I getting rejected and all that? Because they never bothered to build their credit score. Let's say your 10th class score and your 12th class score, you can escape from it once you start building your resume.
Right.
But credit score is something that you cannot escape from.
Correct.
But one good thing is, unlike your 10th and 12th class score, credit score is something that is in your hands. You can always work on it. Right? And this like I keep telling a lot of people, like one of my customers, same thing, he was working in a call center. He's a 22-year-old person, right? So and he also wants to enjoy the life of luxuries, get a premium card, एयरपोर्ट लॉन्च जाना है, गोल्फिंग क्लब करना है. Obviously, we are an aspirational country. We should have even higher aspirations. I would say low aspirations is a problem. We should have even higher aspirations. So, but obviously these things are not accessible to him. Now he took an FD credit card, used it for a few months. Now his credit score is like almost like 750 plus. Now he is able to get an airport launch card. He is able to graduate. So a product like an FD credit card gives you an opportunity to graduate.
Right.
Everybody needs a graduation platform.
Right.
At the end of the day, so like from 0 to 1, it sort of gives you that graduation opportunity.
What is an ideal credit score? More than 700?
Ideal, I would say 750 is considered a good benchmark. Like lot of banks actually put a threshold of 750.
750. Okay. So what if that is low? How people can still get a credit card?
If it is in the existing scheme of things,
Okay.
getting an unsecured credit card with a credit score of less than 700 is extremely hard.
Okay.
Extremely hard. Either you have I don't know, even you can't get an unsecured credit card with a relationship also.
Okay.
That's different. Like some banks at least say that sir आप ये वो हमारा प्रोडक्ट ले लो, 3-4 और प्रोडक्ट ले लो, हम आपको क्रेडिट कार्ड दे देंगे, somehow आप जुगाड़ करके आपको दे देंगे. But like unsecured credit cards में that's also very hard. So if your credit score is less than 700, it is highly recommended that you build it first.
Okay.
You take a product like an FD credit card, build it to 750 plus, then you go for your whatever credit card that
Luxury
you want.
credit cards.
Even let's say for example, if you want to go for a vehicle loan, car loan लेना है, home loan लेना है, or any other loan that you want to take, and if your credit score is low, it is better to wait for a few months. Instead of taking that 10-year wala loan at a higher interest rate, if it is not urgent, आप पहले credit score build करो, उसके बाद it is better to go and take that loan.
Okay.
You will save a lot of money on that. So that's what people misunderstand the importance of credit score.
Right.
Because it's a fairly new concept. Most people don't even understand the implications of what it will do to their financial future.
Right.
I think in the years to come, in the next next 10-20 years, particularly the working population, they will realize the importance of credit score for sure.
Okay. What are the domains where we shouldn't use credit cards at all? Like for shopping we can use, or for travel we can use. But
see, if you look at it right, so there is one type of credit card spend which is happening as of today, more than anything else.
Right.
That is rent payments.
Okay.
People pay rent via credit card. And mostly it's an abused feature. In the name of rent, they're essentially sending money to someone else or to their own account.
Right.
It's mostly that. And that is the payment that one needs to avoid.
Okay.
Any form of cash withdrawal from a credit card.
Right.
Either be you're doing a rent payment on a UPI app for some, not real rent, for you to withdraw some cash, or let's say you are going and withdraw cash in an ATM because you're out of cash and all that, right? So these are strict no's.
Okay.
You should never ever do these transactions using a credit card.
Okay.
Unfortunately, a large number of people are doing them. A very large number of people are already doing it. For a lot of payment apps, rent payment is the topmost category in terms of the money that they make.
Okay.
Like, at the end of the day, how people look at it is like, see, I need 1 lakh rupees. I will go open whatever app, credit ho gaya, phone pay ho gaya, doesn't matter, right? So I will make a rent payment of 1 lakh rupees. You will charge 3,000 rupees extra. लेकिन मेरे को तो 1 लाख आ रहा है. तो at just 3,000 rupees extra fee, I'm getting an instant loan of 1 lakh rupees.
Right.
So this is how people are using it.
Correct.
And it's a very, very dangerous thing to do. And no credit card holder should be doing such transactions. Any credit card transaction which you're doing for cash withdrawal purposes should be strictly prohibited.
Okay.
Avoid it, not prohibited. They should avoid doing that. Then they're essentially setting themselves up into a financial trap.
Right. So there's this, not a saying, but I've heard this thing that if we can use our credit card like a debit card, whether it is a good condition or we should avoid that as well.
No, that is actually correct. See, the purpose there is same. Like, how will you use a debit card?
Yeah.
Debit card you will only use depending on how much money is there in your bank account.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
What that essentially means is don't spend more than what you earn.
Yeah. So that is that is the same
So if
thing.
you can translate that to a credit card, it's like
Okay,
you're just
sorted.
I will even go one step further.
Hmm.
My mantra for personal finance has always been don't spend more than half of what you earn.
Okay.
If you can do that, if you can build a lifestyle around this, then the level of freedom that you will enjoy. See, people like there is a very wrong notion of richness and freedom in India.
Correct.
People think richness is having a lot of money. No, it's not. Let's say, for example, I really, at the moment, I don't have to worry a lot about how much I'm earning because my expenses are always less than half of what I earn. Always. So that makes me feel rich. I'm not a billionaire, but that makes me feel very rich.
Right.
The reason being that, my lifestyle is suited that way. I never have to, I'm never running month to month. I'm never waiting for my salary. If you're constantly waiting for your salary, then what you need to fix first is your lifestyle.
Correct. Not spending more than half of what your income is.
That is the gold standard of personal finance. May not be possible for most people in India. That is the gold standard. 50%, if you can come to 50%, that's the gold standard. Not many people can do it. Most people operate at 70, 80s.
And this is including all the EMIs that a person has to pay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The credit cards, they have everything.
Everything included. If you can, that's the gold standard of living. Like if you can do that, right? If anybody who lives, who can make this statement when they're in their early 30s,
Right.
they can comfortably retire in their 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, that's simple as that.
Correct.
Early retirement is not a function of how much money you put in stock market.
Right. Correct.
It's a function of how much you're earning versus how much you're spending. That's about it. And it gives you unimaginable freedom. The freedom of not having to buy everything under the sun.
Correct.
Right? So it's unimaginable.
Next question is, as we have talked about real estate investments and everything. Now, other than real estates, if a person want to invest in gold, so what do you suggest that how this can be a better option in today's time, especially?
See, gold has always been a great asset class.
Right.
And I like to believe it will continue to remain so.
Okay.
There are a few
Again,
reasons
coming
for
decades
it.
as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if the situation get worse and everything, the COVID we have passed.
Irrespective. There is no better store of value than gold. What is currency at the end of the day? Any currency is a store of value.
Yeah.
Rupee ho gaya, dollar ho gaya, and all of this. But most of the currencies that we deal with today, they are controlled by some, either a government, RBI,
Right.
and you can't control the supply of that currency. When the supply of a currency is not fully in someone's control, then that makes it not a great store of value.
Okay.
What makes gold the greatest source of value, if you look at it, right? So take the entire gold in the world at the moment. Entire gold in the world. Start stacking up on a football field. To some great heights. You will actually see that the entire gold in the world is literally a few football fields. Not more than that. And the entire unmined gold in the world, which we can possibly mine whenever, is again a few more football fields. So gold is extremely finite.
Yeah, right.
You cannot manufacture gold out of thin air.
Right.
You can print US dollars out of thin air. You can print Indian rupees out of thin air. But gold being such a finite thing, which and even that's what I'm saying, right? People tend to assume that unmined gold bhi bahut zyada hoga. No, whatever that we can mine is also fairly finite. So gold is a very scarce thing that makes it maybe the best source of value. Maybe the best. I don't want to get into risky things like cryptocurrencies and whatnot, right? These are far too risky for a common man to get into. But for a common man, there is no other greater source to preserve your value or wealth than gold. But again, the current prices of gold are really high. Gold also can potentially see a correction. Nobody can predict that, or it can go higher from here. So anything can happen. Nevertheless, gold continues to remain as one of the strongest asset classes in the decades to come. Anyone who wants to sort of have like good value diversified, right? So they should always consider investing in gold. And particularly right now, investing in gold has become so easy. Gold का भी SIP है, right? You can go most of these jewelry outlets also they offer SIPs, right? And again, DigiGold is even better.
How come?
DigiGold.
Now, it is getting into a trend now, that sovereign gold bonds or the digital gold bonds.
Yes. See, I'll tell you, right? See, Indians have this what do you call? Strong affinity towards physical gold.
Right.
Jewelry shop जाना है, ये सब jewelry खरीदना है and all that, right? So personally, why I love gold as an investment? I'm not a big fan of jewelry.
Right.
Like, you know, jewelry I think leads to value erosion.
Okay.
Like, you know, the entire like I was actually doing some this thing on it. Like, you know, we had gone for some gold shopping, and whatever we bought few years ago, now when we are trying to sort of repurpose it for a new ornament on something, so I see a lot of leakages, lot of, you know, returns going.
Okay.
The entire the jewelry business is built around those 2-3% leakages, whatever they can extract.
And again, the charges that we have.
Yeah. All the charges that they're paying.
Correct.
So if you can buy, I don't know, like, you know, let's say for example, there are a few like bangles are great. Bangles में wastage काफी कम होता है. Even if you want to, let's say, melt them and use for something else, right? Because the, like, say, very complex jewelry with lot of stones and lot of making, right? That'll be a very bad idea to buy.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, if for your wedding, of course you can buy. But if you think that gold is appreciating, that's why I'm buying this necklace, it's a bad idea.
Right.
Like, you know, maybe gold biscuits, great idea. Anything which can be remolded with minimal wastage, that is something that I would highly recommend. Right? And again, you take the digital version of it, wo ho gaya DigiGold, and the SGB sovereign gold bonds, they're even better. But again, slight caveat there, I'm still a bigger fan of physical gold than DigiGold.
Okay.
Primary reason, you can't sell physical gold easily.
Acha.
You can't. You don't want to also.
Now, other than the sentimental values, why we shouldn't sell a physical gold?
Because it's not easy. You go to a shop, you have to spend a few hours, like if you have to.
Acha, like that. But digital gold we have
digital,
in our hand, yeah.
One click. So the moment you think that, अरे मेरा इस 1000 month का 20,000 कम हो रहा है, you will sell immediately.
Correct.
Will you do exactly the same with some gold ornament sitting in your locker? You will not do it.
Correct.
So people underestimate. That is why that makes gold brilliant, because gold is liquid and illiquid at the same time. You can convert gold into cash anytime because of the wide acceptance.
Right.
But people still don't do it because of reasons of, let's say, you know, Indian mentality ho gaya. You're not supposed to sell so much gold and all of those things, right? And gold is a brilliant security also. The fastest and easiest loan that you can possibly get is gold loan. Right? So you just go deposit gold, they give the loan immediately. That, I think, gold has always been a great asset class. In the existing scheme of things and considering the Indian context, it is even better now.
Other than the Indian context, like, this is a better options for other countries as well.
Yeah. Yes, totally. Any useful material where the supply is very well controlled is a great idea.
Okay.
Gold, silver.
Silver is getting into trend again.
Silver continues to be a very good investment.
Okay.
Silver is also a very great option.
So real estates, gold. Other than that, so now if we want to get a early retirement stage and everything, can we consider all these things again? Like, real estate is one aspect, gold is
first of all, this early retirement concept that people are talking about, right? My entire circle of friends and my network of colleagues and everything, I've only come across one person who could retire early. Only one. And that too, he made a lot of money. He got fed up with his corporate life, all the politics and everything. He did not have children. That's also another reason.
Correct.
So he managed to retire at 45. He moved from Bangalore, went and settled down in a smaller place. So he did that. Now he's bored. That's a different thing altogether. But this fantasy of early retirement go and enjoy your time sipping panna coladas out of a beach, right? I think it's mostly, it's fraud, if I have to call it out. It's really fraud. It's very misleading. And all these so-called influencers who are trying to promote this concept should not be doing it.
Okay.
They're doing more harm to the youth than good. At the end of the day, what they're trying to essentially say is that your work life is hell and get out of it as soon as you can. And what after that?
Yeah, right.
There is nothing. Like, it's an extremely flawed way of thinking, an extremely flawed way of looking at life. So this concept of early retirement, I somehow find it to be very amusing. And people who fall for that concept, I pity them.
So you don't
People-
agree and all these
No.
things. Okay.
And if you're someone who likes working, even if you don't like working, but everyone likes to be occupied, right? At the end of the day, you'll go mad if you're not occupied.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I know people who tried to take a sabbatical, they went mad in 3 months.
Yeah, correct. What if after 60 year of old age?
See, I have a different concept in mind. I also like the concept of early retirement, but in a different way.
As in?
By the time I'm 45 years old, or let's say I'm entering into my 50s, right? I want to be in a position where money is no longer part of my life's equation.
Okay.
For me, that is true retirement. True retirement is when you don't have to wait for your next paycheck.
Yeah.
That is true freedom. That is true retirement. True retirement is when you do what you like today and not put it up for 5 years later. Next 5 years, I will work as hard as I can. And after next 5 years, I will enjoy. That's a very bad way of looking at life overall, right?
Correct.
So retirement for me is when you have taken money out of the equation. It's very hard for most people to do. Most people, it's like, money, you're no longer working for money. If you can get to that state, consider yourself retired.
Okay.
If you're working for money, then you're not retired.
Correct. So even after 60 years, you still want to work. No matter.
Totally.
And okay, so what do you think about government schemes to invest in? What do you think are the top government schemes that a person can invest? Maybe in mid 30s, if you want to start the investment.
See, I would say that with all the stock markets and all the latest instruments that have come, right, some of the older investment vehicles have, I would say, people started forgetting about them. And I think, let's say, public provident fund ho gaya, normal PF also, right? So people don't max out their PF. I do a voluntary PF on top, just to, and I always, do my annual PPF investment as well. And these are brilliant vehicles. People will only realize the advantage of it once they enter into old age. Like both my parents and my in-laws right now are enjoying, of course, they've come from extreme humble backgrounds, typical government employees and all that, fairly state government jobs and everything. But it is primarily because of their PF and PPF that they're able to enjoy retirement life with zero worries. Zero worries. So these are overlooked instruments, and PPF is a beautiful instrument. It gives you 8 to 9. They're constantly bringing down the interests, unfortunately, but still, whatever the interest rate, it is still lucrative. It gives you tax-free returns, and you will not even realize that paisa ja raha hai.
Safety is more or less
extreme safety. See, again, the beauty of these instruments, right, is the fact that they're not very liquid.
Yeah.
PPF को जाके लोग नहीं तोड़ेंगे, but they'll be super happy 15 साल के बाद एक बड़ा लमसम आ जाता है.
Correct.
Then they will realize, बहुत अच्छा काम किया मैंने.
Do you think the youngsters have this kind of mindset, or they should at least?
अभी वाला youngsters तो I think they are extremely misled by the जो भी financial influencers हो गया, social media हो गया, all this fire, financial independence, retire early, Bitcoin खरीदो, cryptocurrency खरीदो, lot of fads going on out there.
You're investing in Bitcoins?
No, I don't.
No. Okay.
I don't. I
You don't like the concept, or you are not into that, or?
No, cryptocurrency is an extremely strong concept.
Okay.
It's a very, very strong concept. But at the end of the day, And again, I'll have to take a step back and define currency first. Like, what is a currency? A currency is something which is widely accepted by everyone
Yeah.
to be a store of value.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, why is Indian rupee considered a currency?
You can buy, sell at a
Yeah,
certain
because
value.
RBI told so.
Yeah, of course.
They
Correct.
gave a guarantee
Yeah.
that iska value मैं दे दूंगा.
हाँ.
Right, at the end of the
Correct,
day, right?
correct.
So now, without the backing of governments and central banks, it is very hard for any currency to find widespread acceptance and legitimacy.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So if we enter a state where this Bitcoin, Ethereum are approved by all, let's say, Indian government, US government, and backed by the central banks also, like, yes, we will also consider this as a form of currency, then yes. But will that happen? I don't think so.
Okay.
Reason being, what is the duty of a central bank? It is to control the flow of currency.
Right.
Why will they legitimize something that they cannot control?
Correct.
So they will not do it.
Especially in the digital space. Correct.
So cryptocurrencies, I think they will have their space. They will have their own parallel economy where people will still find utility. अभी भी transactions होते जाते हैं. But until they reach this widespread global acceptance by governments and central banks, retail investors should not be entering cryptocurrencies. It's a huge risk.
Okay.
Like the RBI tomorrow can come and say that I will ban all crypto trading in India. Like if US government makes one statement tomorrow, your value will just go to zero that very same day.
Correct.
Right? So I strongly advise, and most crypto experts also don't understand crypto.
Okay.
No. I was also part of a founding team of a crypto startup before this.
Okay. Right.
So I understand crypto better than most people. Right? So yeah, most people have a very bad understanding of crypto.
Especially Indians?
Yes, totally idiots. Indians, हमारे लोग, I think we are even better at patting ourselves a lot more than what we deserve.
Right.
Like, I learn 2 words, Bitcoin, Ethereum, then suddenly next day I'm crypto expert.
Correct.
Right? So that's how most people behave. That's why it's advised to be wary of such things. So that's why I think the best financial advice for most Indian youth right now is to listen to their dad.
Okay.
Not go after all the latest fads.
Huh.
I went after all the latest fads in the last 10-15 years. Now I'm back to basics. Oh my god, like yeah, these are timeless principles. Like,
Correct.
my dad was always right, like
Yeah.
literally that.
Yeah. Especially in terms of investments or in a personal journey as
Overall, personal finance and investments, right? So see, that's what I'm saying, right? So if you look at post-independent India, until 1990s, before liberalization, that's our parents' era, right? So most of them, they were brought up in a world of scarcity. That has changed, I would say, with the 90s kids. 90s kids did not, so that's what I'm saying, right? So that's why this late 80s and late 90s wale kids jo hai, they're sort of fortunate. Because we were not brought up in scarcity, we were not brought up in abundance also.
Correct.
एक stable सा अच्छा सा childhood था and all that, right? If you look at the current generation, the post 2000 वाले जो है, they are not all of them. Maybe I may be doing a bit of gross generalization here, but the point is very clear, right?
Correct.
So the current generation of the smartphone kids, they are being brought up in abundance. Abundance of toys, abundance of content, abundance of, like, you name it, right? So that is one very, very big reason that they end up taking not so good decisions as well. Like the current 22, 23-year-old who is right there, like, who like, he will be like, I don't like this job, I'm quitting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is it the right thing to do? I'm not commenting on the quality of the decision. I'm only commenting on the circumstances.
Right.
When I was 22 years old, I did not have the wherewithal to even think of such decisions.
Correct.
Like, of course we think about, अरे यार घर में लोग क्या बोलेंगे, finances का क्या है, security. So that conservative mindset that we all had, irrespective of how we were behaving to the external world, at the end of the day, Indians have a very deep conservative mindset.
Right.
So that is what has changed more rapidly than what we had expected because of the digital revolution and whatnot, right? So I think that is one reason why the divide also becomes a lot higher. Now let's say the 20-year-old guy, if he listens to me saying, he'll be like, अरे इसको कुछ पता नहीं है, ये बूढ़ा कुछ बोल रहा है. Like, he doesn't know, he does not understand cryptocurrencies fully, so that is why he's ridiculing them, But when he is my age, I'm sure he will agree with me, right? So
So there is a possibility that this mindset can be changed. Like if a 15-year-old boy, he is into all those, abundance of the luxury items or the tech thing, until 25 or 26, he is into that, but suddenly is there a possibility that this can be changed until he or she turns 30 or the mid 30s, especially in Indian society?
See, it's fairly simple, like,
मतलब आपके अंदर ये चेंज मतलब आया कि like, or if you have seen your children into this thing कि नहीं,
I'm worried about
ये
my
मेरे
kid.
से-
I'm very, very worried about my kid.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, like, he's currently, the amount of abundance that is around him, and like, the plentifulness that he's currently used to, right?
Even if parents नहीं allow करते हैं तो society or the peer that they have been, तो वो आ ही जाता है अंदर.
That's what I'm saying, right? So that's another huge problem. I think peer pressure has sort of increased 10x. Like, in our days, the biggest peer pressure was the neighboring auntie who used to ask, like,
12th में
आपके
कितने
बच्चे को 10th में कितना मार्क्स आए. So that was
Correct,
our
correct.
peer pressure was like, you have this cycle, मेरा पास ये वाला bicycle है. Our peer pressure limited to that.
Correct.
But I feel very sad for the current generation, for them to undergo through so much peer pressure, and that too, most of it negative.
Right.
So which is not even developmental. A lot of peer pressure is actually developmental. But what they're currently going through is not even developmental. It's like based on looks, based on, I don't know, like what you're wearing. It's mostly virtue signaling that is happening. Yeah, I think the best thing that as parents that we can do is maybe try and keep our kids from social media as much as we can.
Okay.
That's it. Social media is the single biggest culprit.
Because now तो parents are usually कि हाँ चल अच्छा बच्चा खाना नहीं खा रहा है, खेल नहीं रहा है, फ़ोन दे दिया, उसमें मिक्स हो जाएगा, ऐसा करके. Okay, got it. Absolutely. So we have talked about all the investment options, I guess, and it's been a great journey, great interview, great session, and I guess all the people who have been listening to this, they have an idea of the investment part of their personal finance, what to invest, where to invest, and I guess we have covered all the investment assets, I would say. So if you want to consider a thing in your personal finance journey, I guess this video can help you out a lot. And it was a great session with you, Mr. Sudhir Vayan, and I hope you also enjoyed this
Yeah.
the conversation. And,
Totally.
I hope we have learned a lot from you now.
Thanks.
Yes, and we are going to change. Thank you so much.
Boss Wala. Be the boss.